Hello and welcome to another episode of Go Horns and Fight Songs. I'm your host Wes, or on Twitter at Painted Bronco as it shows below, and I'm with my co-host Mike, or at Maro04 on the Twitters. How you doing, Mike?
Good. How about you?
Oh, it's been pretty good. Can't complain. Can't complain.
Good weekend of hockey.
It was a good start to the NCHC season as we opened conference play this weekend. And we started out with a couple big games in my Western Michigan Broncos taking on your UMD Bulldogs.
Probably the highlight of the weekend, at least in our opinions.
I'm sure there's a few other people who may have felt the same way. Friday's game was, I think, a closer game. Both games were solid, but I think competitive-wise, Friday was a little bit closer with Western picking up the win 4-3 there, or 4-2. 4-2, 4-3.
Uh,
I was at the game and I can't remember.
it was 4-3.
Yeah, I think we got the empty net goal.
No, it was 4-3 because I don't think it might have been 5-3 if there's the empty netter, but Ethan Frank scored late
Yep.
To seal the game. I don't remember there being an empty net goal.
I will check to make sure, because it's gonna irritate me that I can't. It's irritating me that I can't remember it.
Looks like you have we have another co-host in the background as well.
4-3. Oh, yep. There's a cat back there.
Looking at that jersey, thinking, how can I destroy it?
I would hope that's my military appreciation jersey. That's a game worn jersey that I won in an auction.
Yeah, 4-3 game on Friday, and then was it 3-0 on
Yeah, 3-0 on Saturday for Fancy to pick up his first shutout.
Yeah, and I think as we talked about last week, I think the series ended up playing out about exactly how we thought it was going to, with the split and them being fairly close. Saturday, I was not able to listen to as much as I wanted to, and then for some reason, when I was at my parents', the game was not on TV. They wanted to put some college football games that they thought was more important, and so I was keeping track of it online. But I did listen coming back from hunting, and I listened on Friday all the way up, and went through the emotional lows and highs of how that game went for UMD. But I do think it played out how we expected. Fairly close series. Um, Even with Saturday, you were there, you saw everything live. But I don't think it was as indicative. Like, the score was indicative of how close the game was.
Yes and no. I mean, I think Fanti definitely earned the shutout that he got. He was in the right place at the right time and was constantly just squaring up to the puck. Like, I don't even know. There was a few times I don't know how he saw the puck, but he was able to get square to it and just take it right off the chest and protect the rebound. And then in front of him, the defense was playing really well because even when there were pucks kind of sitting in that 6 feet area in front of the crease, we weren't able to get good sticks on them, or we weren't able to make clean passes to get them out. So we definitely got outplayed Saturday. But it wasn't like we were playing a terrible game. It was just we were a little bit off, and Minnesota was more determined, I think, having suffered the loss Friday, to avenge it Saturday. But I mean, the compete level I think was there, but it just seemed like we were expending more energy than we really needed to and not really getting the results we wanted.
And that's one thing that over the past few years that I've noticed with any Scott Sandlin coach team is if you're going to sweep them, you have to be really on or they have to be really off. There's not going to be uh it's not like they're going into any arena or some teams coming into their barn and they're just that much better. Uh, there's a compete level, and if they lose on Friday, you better believe they're going to win on Saturday because they're not going to take that sweep. They do not want to take that sweep.
And the other thing that was like kind of weird about Saturday is it didn't feel like our student section was as involved in the game as they were Friday. Um, and when I think you're so reliant on that student section carrying the atmosphere of the arena when your play isn't when the play on the ice isn't necessarily as strong as it can be, it makes the entire event feel like a little bit off. And I mean that's kind of something that's happened a few times, but I think you really feel it at a place like in Kalamazoo when an entire half of our arena or an entire side from blue line to blue line is the student section, and if they're not engaged, it kind of feels worse than it has to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I did notice that listening on the radio Friday when I was driving, it was loud. Sometimes it was a little hard to hear our radio announcer uh, because of the chants that the student section was going with. And then when I put it on driving home on Saturday, it it just wasn't as loud. It was kind of hard to hear what the student section was saying, and it just didn't seem like the energy was quite there. And in arena like Lawson Arena, I I've never been there, but I'm sure that throughout for how small it is, you can hear what the student section is saying. Where at 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 Amsoil, if you're sitting on the opposite end, the sound just kind of goes up, and you can't hear what the student section is chanting. You're like, well, they're saying something. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean
So
it was
I don't think that helps as much as it does in Lawson.
yeah, and they do the radio zero help because the student section is directly under the press side of uh, the arena. So if you ever wonder why you hear Lawson Lunatics so loudly when you're listening to a Western Michigan game at Lawson, it's because they're directly under the press box. So
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I like listening to the chants and seeing what the kids come up with.
yeah, and like I said, I mean
That makes it more fun.
Friday was a lot better, and but there's kind of been this dip in the student section a little bit, and I don't know if it's because of last year not having it, and so therefore you didn't really get that traditional passing down of things like on that side of the ice or what, because even since I graduated in 2013, so almost 10 years now, but not quite yet, but it's kind of gotten less attentive to what's happening on the ice and more just kind of generic chants, and even just more sporadic throughout the game, like not necessarily as involved in the game where it used to be that if there was a lull on the ice, we were chanting something. Whether it was appropriate to be chanting that or not is, college students, college athletics at their best. And the other thing is like, what I would like to see is I wish it was more involvement from non-student fans, because like our students carry the involvement of the fans. So if they're allowed, it's coming from them. But the rest of the fans only kind of cheer if it's a goal or maybe a big hit. But it's a lot less involvement from the rest of the fan section, and I wish that was something that would pick up. Because if you kind of go to basketball games, it's almost like the opposite. Like the parents and the community come out and they make uh, the most noise and they're the most involved with the game, whereas the student section of those will kind of pick points and times and chant certain things or make noise when they're trying to shoot free throws and they're staring like at the student section. Whereas hockey games, it's the students carry it, parents and community people and alumni cheer sporadically. So it would be cool to see both venues get more encouragement from the entire fans.
And I think that'll come especially with the season that Western should have, um, especially with a player like Ethan Frank, because what now he has 8 goals in 8 games. It,
Um, yeah, I believe so.
I
He was held without. Well, I mean, everybody was held without a point or a goal on Saturday. So he's had 2 games without scoring a goal, but he's scored at least one in every other game.
yeah, because his shorthanded goal on Friday, uh, Bruce Siski, the UMD radio guy, he said, well, now he has 7 goals in 7 games, and then he scored the game winner with I think it was a minute 43 left, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
Uh,
143 or 126, one of those two.
yeah, 143 stands out in my mind. So then that gave him his 8th goal of the year,
Yep.
and when you have a player leading a team like Western that's that good and good supporting cast around him, they're going to build some excitement. This is definitely an NCAA tournament team that can make some noise, and I think with the atmosphere, as soon as people start picking up, like, hey, we got a pretty good team here, they can do something. Then I think you'll get that fan involvement and people wanting to encourage them more instead of, eh, it's Friday night, it's a Saturday night, we got nothing else to do. Want to go down to the Western hockey game? Sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a great place to be in. Like, they're fun games. It's a fun environment. And Ethan does have 8 goals. He's currently the team leader in goals. Ronnie Eddard is second with 4, and I think he picked up all 4 of those goals. The 29th and 30th in Colgate when he had the hat trick on Friday, and then scored I think the game winner or game tying goal on Saturday. So they're picking up a little bit here and there. And Ethan's a guy that we've talked about literally, I think, every episode for one reason or another. Um, he, I like to compare him to Alex Tuck a little bit, and he's able to do a lot of things, and he's a high energy guy. And when he's coming down the ice, like, I don't want to be in his way. And he's got a filthy shot. And then on the power play, he's kind of taken on that kind of Stamkos, Ovechkin setup on the left side of the ice and just rip one timers from that face off dot, which he is an incredible shot for. So keep doing it and keep putting them back there.
Yeah, you're gonna make more. Well, it's hard to make more than you miss in hockey, but you're gonna make more than you think you're going to. Um, you're gonna have a high percentage chance, and it, UMD did. I think they did a good job of not allowing power play goals, but the power play has just been atrocious this year.
Yeah, I don't. I think
We have
we had. I want to say we had one on Friday, and we couldn't get anything done in the 5 minute major on Saturday, which was kind of disappointing. But I think it just speaks to the defensive abilities of Minnesota and Fancy to literally just be in the way of everything. Um, yeah, we went 1 for 4 on Friday.
Yeah, and UMD's power play, our power play has just been absolutely atrocious. I I don't know if we got one on Saturday, but I know we didn't get one on Friday, and we were at that time we were like 3 for 24 or something like that on the power play, and the 5 minute major that was called. there was absolutely nothing to be done, and a team as talented and experienced as we are, you can't have a power play that is that bad.
Yeah, you guys went 0 for 8 on the weekend, but you did pick up a short-handed goal.
It,
So, but I mean,
yeah,
you're also
that's
playing, and Western has had one of the best, if not the best, penalty kill so far this year. I know at one point in the to start the season they were like 0 for 16 as far as giving up a power play goal. Like we had killed off 16 straight penalties and gave up a couple to Colgate, but got right back on, stopping. And in fact, there was a period on Friday's game where we had 7 straight minutes of PK because we had killed off the
hmm
5 and picked up another one as that was expiring.
yeah, right after it expired,
And then you guys scored.
and that was kind of a recipe for disaster where you have a power play that is, I don't know the full stats, but probably the worst in the nation with UMD, and then one of the best PKs. You can't score on a 5 minute power play. You can't score at all. I mean, you have 7 minutes of power play time. You barely get any shots, and then you give up a shorthanded goal. Just it has me a little bit worried early in the year because that's not what a national championship team does.
Yeah, you
A
definitely want to
national
take more
championship team.
advantage of those situations. And granted, I mean, you did end up getting the goal when Western was tired because they had cycled out the same, you know, 4 guys for 7 straight minutes. But uh, yeah, Western was kind of able to dictate a little bit better in the first game as far as keeping the puck in your zone. And then it was like a switch got flipped, and we just couldn't do it on Saturday. We had a couple opportunities where we were getting multiple shots, but nothing was clean, nothing was good, and we couldn't get anything dirty to bounce. So, I mean, like I said, I don't take anything bad away from this weekend. I think both teams played extremely well. I don't think uh, it really hurts us to lose to the caliber of team that Minnesota is or Duluth is. And I think it kind of helped both of us out by playing as well as we did because I think we both moved up a little bit in the standings and rankings and wherever.
Yeah, I think UMD stayed where they were, but Western moved up one spot, maybe two, um, which makes sense. I wouldn't take anything away from UMD splitting and Western getting that win on Friday. Yeah, they deserve to move up at least a spot, if not two or three, because of the caliber of team that they're playing.
I think the surprise of the weekend actually though would have to be um, potentially Colorado College forcing Friday to overtime as far as around the conference. I think they ended up getting swept on the weekend, but I think St. Cloud came in at number one. I think they were ranked first overall, and
Yes,
so
I believe they were.
to to force an overtime game with them on Friday is no easy task for sure, and definitely gives Colorado College a little bit of hope and shows them that they can compete, which
And
I think everybody knows that they can, but I think that kind of says it to themselves too, like, hey, we were able to force overtime and compete with a strong St. Cloud team.
and I don't wonder if that might be a little byproduct of the non-conference schedule that St. Cloud played. Um, I I mean, starting with St. Thomas and their first ever games in Division One hockey, that just kind of, all right, you're getting your cakewalk. I mean, they did play Mankato. Uh, they lost 1-0 and then won 3-1. And they played Minnesota, who's eh, they're okay, and then Wisconsin. Um, but I just don't wonder if St. Cloud kind of treated them like a St. Thomas and are like, we got this. We know what we can do against them. We'll go in, we'll sweep them, and then Colorado College is like, eh, we got nothing to lose. Let's prove to them that we can play with them and that we're here to compete for the Penrose. Like, let's do that.
Yeah.
I think it might have been a little look into next weekend on St. Cloud's part, at least on Friday.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to say that teams don't do that because I'm sure some guys do, but I don't think you really can do it with any team in the NCHC.
No,
It's so tough top to bottom in this conference that anytime you do that, it becomes a trap game and you can get knocked off. I think we saw the same St. Cloud team kind of did it with Western last year when Western was having this long stretch of bad luck coming out of the pod where we lost our goalie. We lost the first game of the season on an own goal to St. Cloud. It was just one thing after another after another. We gave up like 18 goals in 2 games. And then we go and play St. Cloud, who's ranked number 4, and we sweep them. So, I mean, even when a team's having a bad year or an off year, they're still not a team that you can take lightly in this conference.
there's a reason kids are coming to play in this conference. They know it's the best. Um, and the good thing is, get a little better look at CC next week because that's who we have coming up. UMD plays Colorado College next weekend,
Yep.
so get a little bit better chance to look at them and see, did St. Cloud just overlook them, or are they a legitimate, scrappy, competitive team that's not going to let you walk all over them? And I think it's going to be the latter more than the former.
I think so too. And then Omaha suffered their first loss of the season, or second loss of the season, in 4-3 on Friday to Miami. So, but still good. And this was their last weekend of home cooking. They go out on the road for a couple weekends now.
Yeah, they get to take on the Huskies, but that series, it ended up what we thought last week, that it was going to be a split.
Yep.
Whoever won Friday was going to lose Saturday, and those two teams, they always kind of play that way against each other.
Yeah, that's one series. It's no. It seems like no matter what, those two teams are kind of linked to each other. Where if Miami's having a really good year, Omaha has a really good year, and whenever they match up, it's just a clash. And or if Miami's kind of having an off year, Omaha seems to also have an off year. So no matter what, their matchup is always super competitive, super close, um, and neck and neck like every year.
Yeah, they to be a fan of one of those two teams, the 4 games of the year when they play each other, that's when you got to circle, because it's going to be entertaining. And I think they're not natural rivals. There's not anything, but for some reason, I just feel like those players are like, this is our series. We have to beat Miami. We have to beat Omaha.
I think at one time Omaha
It's
was a
just a weird.
CCHA school, so I mean there is that little tie-in together. Um, they weren't there at the end. Omaha wasn't there at the end of the CCHA, but I think they had spent some time in that conference together. So
Yeah, it's a weird vibe that comes. It's an exciting vibe, but it's
yeah,
just an odd, non-natural rivalry that it just they're like in a three-legged race. It seems like they're attached at the hip.
yeah. It like I mean, and this Miami's supposed to be our rival. One, we came to the NCHC together from the CCHA. You have the Michigan Ohio thing. Uh, like I think they were meant to more so be our rival, but when that series comes up and when you watch those games play, like it feels more like a rivalry between them than it does sometimes between us and Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Like it almost feels like Duluth is becoming um, more of like our rival for whatever reason. Like that's the team that we seem to get up the best for. That's the team that our games are the most competitive with year in and year out.
Yeah, and I think obviously for us, St. Cloud and North Dakota, they're the two big ones, but those are also WCHA rivals that have carried over. So there's a long history there.
Yeah.
But Western is emerging. Um, and speaking of North Dakota, they actually surprised me this weekend. Uh, I did not think that they would sweep Denver. I actually thought if there was going to be a sweep, it was going to be the other way around. But they won 3 and 4-1
Yeah,
over Denver.
I mean, this definitely feels like a statement weekend for North Dakota, and they travel to Miami this weekend. But again, that's another case where you can't overlook the team you're going to play, and you're going to their arena. So it'll be interesting to see if North Dakota can keep this going. You know, the strong start they have to the NCHC season, because they've been inconsistent and just split most weekends aside from the Niagara series to start the year. So
Yeah, and it will be interesting once we get into conference play. But I I just saw Denver as a potentially stronger team, and I think going back to our rankings at the start of the year, we had Denver and North Dakota. They could be interchanged, but kind of middle of the pack. Uh, so I thought that was going to be a split more than likely, but if it was going to be a sweep, it was going to be Denver. And the fact that North Dakota said, "Hey, we're here. We're not going anywhere. We're still North Dakota," surprised me a little bit.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I do feel like our rankings, or at least my rankings from the preseason, have been pretty much on point. And the only spot that I could see that I've gotten wrong as of this point, based on this weekend's series, would be I should have switched Denver and North Dakota, because I think I had North Dakota sixth. Yeah,
Yeah,
fifth or sixth. Um. So yeah,
Denver one spot ahead of North Dakota, and
it was 5 and 6. I
thought,
had them 5 and 6. That's right.
yeah.
Um,
So just flip flop.
but I wish I had it here. I'm pretty sure I had St. Cloud first, Duluth. I think I bumped Western up to third. Moved Denver to fourth, and North Dakota to fifth, I think.
That seems right. We'll just have to listen back to episode one. That's just what we're gonna have to do.
Well, maybe. Where did I find it? No, I just found my notes for why I put people where I put them. I think that's right though. I think that was the order it was in, because then we had um, Nebraska, Miami, and Colorado College as the bottom three, which would be 6, 7, and 8. So yeah, North Dakota would have had to been 5. Denver would have been fourth. Western would have been third, and then St. Cloud and St. Cloud. Yeah. So, but I do feel that Western is definitely right now a top 3 team in the NCHC. And we'll see how St. Cloud continue, or what St. Cloud does as they get into a little bit tougher competition, and continue into conference play.
Yeah, I think Omaha will push St. Cloud. I I shouldn't say more, but it will bring out more of the better play in St. Cloud, and we'll see what they do with that. I don't think we're gonna see the best out of St. Cloud though until let's see.
They have Omaha this weekend, and then they come to Western the 19th and 20th.
Yeah, I think we'll start to see the best of St. Cloud the 19th and the 20th with Western.
Ooh, they are
A
not.
lot of the players know where teams rank, what's going on. You can't overlook any team, but they know which schools that they need to get up for a little bit more, and Western is one of them.
They have got a couple of stretches here on their schedule that are just grinding. So they've got Omaha this week, or us next week. Then they go back home to take on North Dakota. Then they get a conference break game with our series with Bemidji State, and then right back into the fire with UMD, Denver, Miami, North Dakota, and then back to or home for Western going into February. Like that is a grinder of a schedule.
Yeah, they do have
And they end the year with Duluth. Like they really don't have an easy end to their schedule whatsoever.
they do have a little bit of a break though. Um, they do not play over the Thanksgiving break, so they play Western and then they are
Off
off.
off until the 3rd of December.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean,
And then
like
they get
even still,
North
you
Dakota.
better use that time to get ready for North Dakota and recover from whatever happened with Western. Because
Mm-hmm. And then they have the 10th and 11th off as well. They're not playing that weekend.
yeah, they have
They
most of
actually,
December off because they don't come back until the 31st and the first.
yeah, with Bemidji.
Yeah, so they have that long winter break. But
Yeah, and UMD does not get that luxury. Uh, we have we have CC next weekend, and then get to play North Dakota in Grand Forks, and then over Thanksgiving, little bit of a break with Alaska Fairbanks, 26th and 27th.
yeah, they come to you, so you don't have to make that long trip out to them. That's nice.
Mm-hmm. And then in Marquette, Northern Michigan. Actually, maybe I'll have to make a road trip and visit my coworker who's gonna be moving to Marquette and watch UMD play Northern Michigan December 3rd and 4th.
Northern's always a pretty solid team.
And then
And
10th and 11th we have Denver, and then we're off for
a couple weeks.
a couple weeks until we come back with Mankato. Happy New Year, guys! You get to play Mankato.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a. Oh no, that wasn't okay. I was gonna say. Well, I mean, you have a day in between games there. That's interesting. You guys play the 30th and the 1st.
Yeah, it must be something with New Year's Eve, but I think might have to make a trip down to Mankato and maybe maybe up to Duluth for that series.
I mean, you guys got a tough stretch at the end of January going into February. You have Western at home, then travel to Denver, then go back home for North Dakota. That's a pretty solid 3 weeks of big boy hockey there.
Yeah, and then after to Denver next week at home versus North Dakota, then Miami and St. Cloud. That's a rough end of the year.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth. All right, well, you're home for 2 straight weekends with. Oh, no, you're not. Yeah, you're back and forth the second half of the year consistently because it's a split series with Minnesota State.
Yeah, Cato.
So
Which I like that they do that with the Minnesota teams that are non-conference.
actually,
Um,
you guys are back and forth the rest of the year. You do not have at any point where you get to stay at home for an extended period of time. Because you're going to Colorado College, then, or you're home for Colorado College, you go to North Dakota, you're home for Alaska, you go to Northern Michigan,
mhm.
you're home for Denver. Friday you go, or the December 30th, you go to Minnesota State.
Yeah.
The first you're home for Minnesota State, to St. Cloud, home for Miami, to Nebraska, home for Western, to Denver, home for North Dakota, to Miami, and finish the year at home for St. Cloud. Like
At
back,
least, man.
you did not get that home cooking schedule that Nebraska got. Which I mean,
I mean,
Nebraska should be on the road for the last half of the year, but
I mean it. At least some of them, like St. Cloud and Mankato, they're not that far. Mankato is about a 3-hour drive. Um, St. Cloud is two and a half, something like that. So not too bad for the guys.
yeah. Somehow Nebraska still has quite a few games at home in the second half of the year. It's more surprising than I thought it was. I mean, a couple stretches where they're away for 2 weekends in a row, but they still have quite a few home games after spending the first month and a half, 2 months at home.
I don't know who
So,
they're paying, but
very, very friendly travel schedule there for the Mavericks of Nebraska Omaha.
must be I think Scott Sandlin's kid. No, he plays for Mankato.
'Cause
That's right. There was some, I think some coach's kid that was playing for Omaha.
we're on that Duluth type schedule. We go back and forth. Started the series, the year with a few home and home series, and then we go back and forth the rest of the way. We do have two quote unquote weeks of back to back away games, but
Mm-hmm.
one of those being what used to be the Great Lakes Invitational with two away games, one at Michigan State and one at Michigan. And then we travel to Colorado College for our next series, which with a little break in between.
And then you do have 2 weeks with at UMD, and then you are at St.
Oh,
Cloud.
yep. Yeah, so we got a little more travel than you guys do. But, not a bad schedule.
I mean, if the kids didn't have school and everything like that, uh, I'd just say have the team stay in Minnesota. You know, come to uh, come to Minneapolis, hang out. Kids can have some fun. Go to St. Paul, watch the Wild, and then just drive an hour up I-94 to St. Cloud and play that series.
Right.
But education is more important for most of them, other than maybe Ethan Frank.
Our fifth year senior guys, they might have some extra time on their hands. Maybe a little bit less workload as far as classroom goes.
Mm-hmm.
But, hey, I wouldn't mind them getting some extra time to rest and recover and not have to take a few extra flights. I think that pretty much covers most of next weekend and the weekend that was. But the other thing I did want to talk about was this increased appearance of goalies or happenings of goalies playing pucks that take them extraordinarily out of position. We've seen it in the AHL. We've seen it in the NHL with Carolina. Their goalie just getting hurt. I think it was Carolina who got their goalie was the one that got injured in that game with Florida. I think it was. where the goalie was coming out and playing a puck that was in between the blue line and the face-off circles in the defensive zone. A couple years ago, Miami versus Western, a player ran into the goalie because he was out playing the puck. This last weekend, we had Bussy play a puck or race for a puck with the guy coming out of the penalty box that led to one of our other players having to make an incredible defensive play, which he
He made
made.
a save.
He made a
It wasn't
save.
a defensive play. It was a save.
Yeah, but I don't know where the idea that you as a goalie need to be racing to that puck and get yourself so out of position and risk injury for one, and two, put yourself so far out of position that you leave an empty net that, thankfully somebody else covered in our case, but in more recent cases it's been a goalie getting trucked because he's so far out of position, and it's two guys racing for a puck.
Yeah, and that would be something interesting for myself to talk to my brother about, because he does play goalie. I don't know if they think they have a better chance at not giving up a goal if they get to it, or what the case is, but there has definitely been an increase of aggressive goalies and going out after pucks that maybe they shouldn't, especially if they have a defenseman coming down, might be a little bit behind, but they could disrupt everything. Instead of focusing on the shooter, they're more focused on the puck. And I wish I knew the answer to it. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's just goalies doing it on their own, what it is.
I really hope it's not coaching. Like, honestly, and I haven't spent time around coaches, but I would assume that if you're looking at a risk to reward, the risk of potentially losing your goalie for a game or multiple games or a season is not worth the one goal that they may be saving if they get to that puck first, or the one goal they might create if they get to that puck with enough time to actually play the puck to somebody else and create a breakaway the other way or something like that. Like, the health of the players should be the number one concern, whether you're a coach or that player himself. And especially in like Bussy's case, like, bro, you were just hurt for an entire season, and it completely changed the landscape of the season. Like, Western was not the team that they would have been had he not gotten hurt. And so I would like him to not do that and to not get hurt and have him for what could be a long run this year.
Yeah, I hope it's not coaching either, and it probably is the younger players coming up, because you hear about all the goalies that are good puck playing goalies. The one that comes to mind just for myself in recent years for the Wild is Alex Stalock. They would always say how good he is at handling the puck and playing it and being basically a third defenseman back there. And I think it might be coaching in the sense that it's a lack of coaching on when goalies should go play the puck, what they should do, how they should handle it. And the goalies are getting too aggressive and thinking, hey, I can go get this, I can help my team out, and they are too overzealous, and then they end up getting hurt or hurting their team.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit. It might be the case of doing too much or trying to take more responsibility than you're really due for the position that a team is in. It's kind of that if you press too hard, you're not going to get anywhere. Whereas if you kind of like take a breath and settle down, make a save and stop the puck, and get a whistle, maybe change guys out and we take over from there. Like, there's no real reason to put yourself at such a disadvantage by potentially eliminating yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you're you're not gonna. Was it Hasek that came out and flipped Gabrick on a breakaway as he was trying to come there? You're not gonna.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do that. You're probably 90% of the time you're gonna hurt yourself in some way, shape, or form, or put your team at such a huge disadvantage where if you just sit in the net, odds are you're gonna stop it. And even if you had Connor McDavid coming down on you, the odds are still in your favor as a goalie.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that a little bit, and that like I really hope that goalies are taking that into account. That like if you go back and watch plays that happen like that, the majority of them do not turn out well for the goalie in some form or another. So in my mind, I'm hoping it's not coaching telling them to do this. It's somebody taking a little bit too much weight on their own shoulders and trying to make a spectacular play when an ordinary play will do. And if that's the case, rethink what's important to you as far as, you know, getting off the field in one piece and shooting for some big contract.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because as much as it might look cool to have that highlight on your resume, there might be some guys out there who are saying, well, you're kind of a risk there, bud. And we'd rather have you on the ice playing mediocre than get one stellar play out of you, but then you're gone for 6 months on, you know, injured reserve. So
exactly, they're not going to waste $1 on you if you're going to be hurt all the time, just because you're trying to go for that highlight reel play.
And then what else? I think we discussed a little bit of the student section type thing at the beginning of the show. We were talking about the Western Series. Anything else you want to cover?
I think I'm good for now. I don't think I had anything else.
I think we're a little bit shorter than previous episodes, but you know, I mean, if that's all we got to talk about, that's all we got to talk about. So, for those who have stumbled upon this and listened to it, greatly appreciate it. If you want to start, you know, if there's a comment you want to make, you can make them in the comments on YouTube, or you can tweet us at the show on Twitter. That'll be in the description. You can tweet us personally on Twitter. Those links will be those handles will be in the description on the YouTube channel as well. Or you can always shoot us an email at goalhorns and fightsongs at google.com, and we'll check those out too. And potentially, if there's some interaction and there's stuff that we need to get to, we'll cover those in future episodes. So, have a good one.
Have a good night.